Hey everyone, welcome to Cooking Caribbean with Christian. Today on our very first episode, we have an extra special meal for you that is near and dear to my heart. It is a native Puerto Rican dish by the name of mofongo. Now, mofongo is typically made from plátanos, which is plantains, but today on this dish, we're going to be using yuca, which is cassava root. They're a little different in consistency. Plátano is a little bit tougher, especially once it's fried. It's like a little bit tougher, and once yuca is fried, it's a bit of a softer consistency. I guess you can relate it most to potatoes, but it's like a tougher and starchier version of a potato. So today we're going to be making mofongo de yuca, and then the mojo and the meat that we're going to be using on top of it is made of shrimp. So I can't wait to show you guys how to make this. Okay, so here are all of the ingredients that you're going to need for the mofongo de yuca with shrimp. So for the mofongo itself, we're going to be using yuca or cassava root. Now this is from the frozen food section. This was frozen and cut up already. I prefer it this way. Otherwise, if you buy it raw, you're gonna have to peel it and wash it and cut it up yourself, and the cassava root is very, very tough. So I find it easier to buy it from the frozen food section, and it's already peeled and cut for you, and all you have to do is boil it. So that's going to be 2 pounds of cassava. The shrimp that you're gonna put over the mofongo, this is 24 ounces of shrimp, or like 2 medium-sized bags of shrimp. This is washed and peeled. You can buy shrimp that's washed and peeled already. This was not, so I had to remove the ends and the tails, and then I just washed it and peeled it myself. So that's 24 ounces of that. Into the mojo, or the gravy of the shrimp, you're going to use a cup of onions, yellow onions or white onions, whatever you prefer, but a cup of onions. We're going to use bell peppers. In this case, we're using red bell peppers. You can use green or yellow, whatever color you want. Today, we're using red bell peppers, so this is a half cup. We're also using a half cup of tomato sauce. 1/3 cup of olives. Now, you can use manzanilla olives, or you can use Spanish olives. Today, we're using Spanish olives, but what's really preferred is if you get these green olives that have the pepper in the middle. That's really the type of olives you want. So 1/3 cup of olives. We're going to use 3 teaspoons of sofrito. Now sofrito is the base seasoning for basically all Puerto Rican dishes. So I'm gonna have to make a video showing you guys how to make sofrito as well. It's super simple. You guys will love it. For the garlic, we're going to be using 2 large cloves of garlic, or 2 tablespoons of garlic. We have 3 bay leaves, 1 packet of sazon. You can get any brand of sazon, and there's a bunch of different brands. It doesn't really matter because most of them are the same. So 1 packet of sazon. And then you want to have on deck some salt and pepper and olive oil. We're going to be using about 2 teaspoons of olive oil into the mojo. So these are all your ingredients for the mofongo, so let's get started. Okay, so the first step in making our mofongo is you're going to boil the cassava root. So we have our pot of water. Depending on how much yuca you're using is going to depend on how much water you're using, but the key is you want to make sure that the water is totally covering the amount of yuca that you're using. So we're gonna turn our burner on. We're gonna bring it to like a medium-high heat. We want to bring it to boil. We're gonna put some salt in our water. Salt is not only good for the taste, but it also helps to boil the water faster. So we'll add some salt into our water, and then we're going to add our yuca, and we're going to make sure that all of our yuca is covered. If you underestimated how much water you need and the yuca is not really totally covered, just go back in and add some more water. Make sure it's all submerged in there. And then you're going to leave the yuca boiling on medium to medium-high heat for about 30 minutes. And then when you take it out, you want to make sure it's fork tender. Okay, so while our yuca is boiling, we're going to get started on our shrimp mojo. So you get a medium size to large size skillet. We're gonna fill it up with 3.5 cups of water. Now the key for making the mojo of the shrimp is that you want it to kind of barely cover the shrimp. So if you're using more shrimp, you're gonna use more water, but for the 24 ounces of shrimp, we're going to use 3.5 cups of water. We're gonna put our shrimp right into the water. We'll turn on the heat to a medium flame. Next, we're gonna add our olive oil. So we'll put 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. We're gonna add our salt to taste. Not too much because the sazon pretty much already has salt. Mix that together a bit. Get the olive oil touching all of the shrimp here. Next, we're going to add our tomato sauce in there. We'll put our sofrito, our olives, our onions and peppers, our garlic, our packet of sazon. Don't forget the sazon. It's very, very important. That flavor is not going to be the same if you don't have the sazon. And last but not least, our 3 bay leaves. You're gonna take your spoon and gently kind of mix that all together. You're gonna see it turn into this beautiful orangey red color. Make sure it's all mixed together. So once you've got that all together, you're gonna put your lid on. Also cooking for about half an hour. Keep checking on it, keep stirring. You'll notice the flavors kind of mixing in. You'll see the texture of the shrimp getting smaller and really like cooking more finely. So just keep an eye on it. We're gonna say 30 minutes cooking that. Okay everybody, so it's been about 15 minutes. We're gonna check up on our food. First we're gonna check up on the yuca, see how it's doing. It's still pretty tough. You know, it needs about half an hour, so I've lowered the flame to about medium now. And you see it's starting to get kind of soft. If you take it out with your spoon and you kind of look at the edges around, you see it's starting to get a little transparent and soft. When it's time for you to take everything out, it's pretty much all gonna have that transparent, translucent kind of look to it. But right now it's still pretty solid. It's in good shape though. Now let's check up on our shrimp and our mojo. Oh my God, it smells so good, you guys. So I'm gonna lower this as well to about, you know, a tad less than medium. We're gonna stir this around as well. You can already see that the shrimp is also decreasing in size. That's pretty normal. Don't worry about that. Your shrimp is going to shrink a bit. So I'm just gonna mix this all together, you know, make sure all the flavors are evenly distributed. We're gonna give it a tiny little taste test to see if we need any more salt or pepper or anything like that. It's already tasting so good, you guys, I can't. So that's great, it's in good shape. If you need any more salt, if you taste it, you need some more salt, add some more salt. If it's starting to dry up and you think you need more water, add some more water, you know, see what your recipe needs. But that's in pretty good shape, so we're gonna come back to that in another 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna get started on breaking apart the yuca. Okay everyone, so it's been about 30 minutes now. We check our yuca so that we can test it. Grab a chunk of yuca, poke it with a fork. As you can see, it's breaking apart pretty easily. That's exactly what we want. We want it to be fork tender. So go around your yuca, make sure all your pieces are pretty tender. Some of them will have already broken up, like this for instance, and it's already like kind of breaking apart. That means that piece was more than ready. So this is really what you want. Okay, so wonderful. We're gonna take our pot and we're gonna pour our yuca into our strainer. Okay, so what you're gonna be doing now After you strain this yuca, you're gonna let it sit in a bowl and let it cool off for a while. It's really important that you let it cool off, obviously, because it's super hot. And I'm gonna tell you why. There's one more reason why you need to let it cool off. So inside the yuca, once it's all dried, and I'm gonna show you guys later when it's cooled down, they're like these little tiny stems that are in the middle of the yuca, and you wanna take those out because they're very tough. And that's like the actual root of cassava. So we're gonna break those apart, we're gonna take those little roots out, and then we're going to chop it up, and then we're also gonna fry it. We're gonna bring it to like a golden brown color. You want it to like half cover the yuca. You don't wanna deep fry it. I mean, you can deep fry it if you want. This recipe, we're not gonna deep fry it. We're gonna bring the oil to about half the level of our yuca chunks. We're gonna break these big chunks into like cube-sized chunks, and then we're gonna fry that all, and then we're gonna make it into our mofongo. So it's been about 30 minutes on our shrimp now, so we're gonna check up on it. I wish you guys could smell it. It smells so good. Okay, so we're good to turn this heat off. I'm gonna mix it all together, make sure everything is good in there. It's smelling delicious. The shrimp is fully cooked through and it's shrunken down to the size that it should be, so that's great. Okay, so this looks done. We're gonna leave that there. Put the top back on it, shut the heat off, and we're gonna let that sit there. That's done, that's ready. We're going to fry our yuca, mash it in our pestle and mortar, which Puerto Ricans call a pilon. I'll explain that later. And then we pretty much have our mofongo. All right, so we've given our yuca some time to cool off. It's definitely not as hot as it was before. So like I said before, you're gonna wanna take out the middle root. So this is what it looks like. You're gonna like split it open like this, and there's gonna be a root inside, and it looks like this. This is what you don't want because it's way too tough. So just discard that. So we're gonna take our pieces of yuca, make sure it doesn't have that root in the middle, take it out, and then we're gonna chop it up into like these cube sizes. This is about the size that you want to fry it in, and then we're gonna place that into our frying pan. So chop up those yuca pieces, make sure you remove the root in the middle, and once we're finished chopping everything up, we're gonna come right back and I'll show you guys how to fry it. Okay everyone, so we've chopped up our yuca. It's nice and diced up in our little cubes, and we're ready to fry it now. So I've put 2 cups of olive oil in a frying pan. We have it on low heat, it's simmering here. It's nice and hot, and we're ready to place them in. So you're gonna place them in very gently, like so. Arrange them around, they'll start sizzling. And what we want is a golden brown color for our yuca. So keep an eye on it, it'll be frying there. Once you see it turning into the golden brown color, then you'll turn it over and, you know, rinse and repeat. We'll do the same thing with all the pieces of yuca, and then we'll have our next step. So coming back to our yuca now, as we can see in our frying pan, it's gotten to a really nice crispy golden color. That's exactly what we want. You can tap it with your fork or with your tongs, and you can tell that it's got like a little bit of a crunchy exterior. That's exactly what we want. Inside it's gonna be a little softer. So we've turned off the heat on that. We're gonna take our pieces of yuca out. We're gonna put it on a plate. I like to use paper towel on the plate so it can drain out some of that excess oil. Once we've removed all of our yuca pieces out of the frying pan, we're gonna take the yuca and we're gonna put it into our pestle and mortar. So Puerto Ricans, we call this tool the pilon. I went to the store the other day and I was asking the guy if they had any pilons there, and he looked at me like I had 5 heads. He really didn't know what I was talking about. So I guess it's only Puerto Ricans that call it a pilon. But yes, it's a pestle and mortar. First, we're going to take a clove of garlic. We're gonna mash it, take that skin off, right? Cut off that tip. Now we're gonna put the garlic into, let's add a second one, just for flavor, just cause we can. We're gonna put our 2 cloves of garlic into the pestle mortar. We're also going to add a bit of olive oil in there. Sprinkle that in there, not too much. We're gonna mash it together. Make sure you get the garlic all over the edges, because what we're gonna do now is we're gonna place the pieces of fried yuca into the pilon. And the garlic and olive oil is not only giving the surface of the mofongo that we're gonna mash in there some flavor, but it's also acting as like a lubricant, because we're gonna mash it in there to create that dome shape, and then we're gonna tap it out. So after you've mashed it all together, we'll add our pieces of yuca into the pilon. And if you don't, also side note, if you don't have a pilon at home, no worries at all. You could totally use like a small bowl like this. The goal is to get like a dome shape. So you really want like this dome shape for your mofongo when it's on the plate. So you can use any type of like small bowl that will give you that dome shape, and you can do the same thing that we're doing here and add the yuca into the bowl and mash it, and then tap it out onto the plate. But because we have a pilon here, and this is how they traditionally do it in Puerto Rico, we're gonna use the pilon. So we'll add some pieces of yuca in there. We're gonna mash it up. Make sure it's nice and mashed, and this is why I fry it beforehand too, because it has like a bit of crunch in the consistency too. So the inside of the yuca is like still really soft, as you can see it, like the way it was when we boiled it, but it also has that exterior like crunchiness that we've mashed up in there. So when you bite into it, when it's all done, it has like this really wonderful texture that's mashed and soft, but there's also like crunchiness in there too. We're gonna add some more pieces of yuca. You can fill it up to your liking. It depends on the serving of mofongo that you want. Make sure you've mashed down all the sides in there. Make sure it's really nice and compact, right? And then what you're gonna wanna do is take like a butter knife, or you know, a regular knife, or something that you can kind of go at the edges with. Tip the knife into the edge and kind of get the yuca off the edges of the actual pilon. Try and get the mofongo out some more. Sometimes the bottom is still sticking to there. This is also why it's really important to add the olive oil in there, because the olive oil will make it a lot easier for it to slip out. Okay, now that we've tapped the mofongo out of our pilon, we've got that nice dome shape. That's exactly what we want. We're gonna take our plate over to the stove where we have our shrimp in the MOJO sauce cooking up, all finished. Let's mix that around a bit, make sure the gravy's all mixed up, get all the flavors together. Now we're gonna take a spoonful and we're gonna spill it right over on top of the mofongo. Oh my goodness. So wonderful. Look at how it just spills over. That's exactly what we want. We want to create like a little pool around it of the MOJO, of the sauce. And then what I like to do is just sprinkle all of the ingredients of the MOJO all over the mofongo. All right, we're all finished. We've made our mofongo de yuca with shrimp. This is what it looks like when it's all done. So decadent, so beautiful. And now the last thing that we have to do is taste it. So let's see. Take it from the side. I like to like dip it in the MOJO. Take a little piece of shrimp. Yo, so good. It's got a little bit of crunch in it. It's mostly soft. That MOJO is so good. It's got like, it's got all the onion flavors. The olives really come through too. The olives really give a lot of flavor, and the sazon. So all that together with like the softness and like the starchiness of the yuca. Guys, you really have to try this. You really have to try this. It's a beautiful meal. It's really simple actually. There's a lot of steps, but once you get used to it, it's very simple. If you like what you see, subscribe below. I'm gonna have so many more recipes and videos to show you. I plan to make so many more Caribbean dishes out there. Also, leave some comments of what you want me to make, and I'll try and make them. Until next time, thank you guys.